Hello everyone! Welcome to our Friday Lunch and Learn. Today we're going to be talking about the No Enemy Movement Observed exhibit here at the museum. We're going to be talking about it for a couple reasons today. The first being that it is now an award-winning exhibit. It recently won the American Association for State and Local History Excellence in Leadership in History Award, which is really super exciting. So that's really great and a great honor that we get to have for this exhibit. But it's also really great for us to be able to showcase exhibits about local history and bring the history back here to Missoula, and to have someone in the community share their story with us is really great. So that's what today's going to be about. You might have heard Matt yesterday talk about the exhibit a little bit, but we're going to kind of go in depth a little bit more today, give you kind of more of a walk-around tour of the whole exhibit. We've got a lot of Leon Howard artifacts and snapshots from when he was stationed in Vietnam. The whole collection is his, which is really great. It's really cool that he, approached us and was able to donate so many things for us to create this exhibit for him, about him. And we also have a lot of his stories as well featured, which is really awesome. So we're gonna go through and talk more about the background of the war too, in case anybody else like me, didn't live through the Vietnam War. I was not even a glimmer in my parents' eye when the Vietnam War happened. And then we've also got a section that reflects on PTSD and moral injury, which is also a huge impact of war. So we've also got an area to share memories and as well, so we'll make sure we'll see everything that there is. As I'm going around, if you see an artifact that you want to know a little bit more about, or if I'm talking too fast, or if you see a photo that you want to get a closer look at, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to circle back around to them. If not, we hope to see you here at the museum and in the exhibit later on in the summer when we open back up to the public. So here we go. Let's see here. All right, so we're starting here. This is our good man Leon. So the whole story of this exhibit is about his experience in Vietnam as a Marine. And so we kind of get an introduction into his life. He's from Frenchtown, not originally, but he moved to Frenchtown after the war. And so it's really great that we get a local guy coming and giving us his stories, which is really awesome. And so it first starts off him arriving at boot camp. And so we kind of get his intro into the war, going in, learning all there is to know about being a Marine. And what's really cool about this exhibit is that we also get some interlaying with John Musgrave, who's also a Marine, but he wrote a book of poems about his time in Vietnam as well. So it's really cool to kind of have Leon's experience paired up with those poems as well. It kind of gives it a really cool perspective. And so we move into more of his boot camp memorabilia. I think the mother's flag is actually really cool, really sweet and endearing, something that all the mothers could have. And we've got his sack, his backpack. This was when he was on leave, right before he was shipped off, so at the end of boot camp. And then we kind of get more into his time over in Vietnam. So before we really get into his story, we wanted to give folks kind of a background on the Vietnam War. So we've got this amazing timeline that starts all the way back in 1859 when the French first seized Saigon, and that's kind of when the Vietnam story begins. And it goes through all the years, over a whole century of history and kind of the different turmoils that were happening. starting, with the Geneva Accords and going through when America arrives and the protests begin, and then all the way down to 1975 when America exits and when Vietnam gets unified again. So that's kind of where we get a lot of the background information before we move more into Leon's personal story. So we have some notes of his while he was on patrol. So he was a scout, and so we get a lot of his notes. You can see where our title for the exhibit comes from. A lot of no enemy movement observed in his notes. And Leon was quite the photographer over at his time, so we've got a lot of really cool photographs of his while he was out scouting. A lot of architecture, a lot of photographs of the people he encountered as well, and the scenery. Got examples of different uniforms he would have worn, and some really cool memorabilia as well. We've got his compass, some hats, different articles as well, magazine, and some more really cool snapshots he took as well. This one I really like, the 5 of these scouts, and Leon says the meanest one is the guy in the back middle, talking about himself, of course. I just thought that was really funny. So then we move on to combat and actually doing some fighting over in Vietnam, and we've got some Viet Cong memorabilia as well that he brought back, some of their weapons that he brought back, and other different things he would have carried with him on patrol, which is really cool. And more of John Musgrave's poems, kind of interlaid with these other photographs, talking about, the realities of war. And, Vietnam was such a controversial war, and I just think it's really cool that we've got several perspectives kind of going on in the exhibit. That's Vietcong flag, or South Vietnamese flag, I should say, that was acquired during combat as well. Some of his other uniforms, and a Viet Cong shirt and camouflage pants. So these are what the Viet Cong were walking around wearing. And then some more snapshots from Leon. Kind of a different look as well. And then we kind of get into the wall of Leon. So it starts off here with his purple heart and a photo with his mother when he returned home. And then the self-portrait wall. Say what you will about this generation and self-portraits. I think Leon's the master of them. He's taken quite a few during his time, exploring the different places he found on his scouting. And then another really great part of the exhibit is tying it back to, what was going on in Missoula while Leon was over in Vietnam. And we have the Missoula Peace Movement and the Peace March of '66, and kind of the response to that as well, local response and what was happening in town. Again, a very controversial war. We've got all sorts of perspectives kind of flying around while that's happening. And so, after Leon returns from the war, he finds himself discharged from the Marine Corps in '68, and he finds his way out to Montana and begins his life as a logger. So a lot of hard work again, but you know, the quiet life as well after everything he experienced in Vietnam. We find that a lot of war vets are just kind of looking for that quiet life afterwards. And in this corner is where, if you come and visit us, you can share your story, either of the Vietnam era, what you thought about the exhibit. If you have any veterans in your family or are yourself a veteran or currently serving, you can come and share your story, and we'll put it up on our wall for a little while. And then after it gets a little too cluttered, we collect all of our stories in this really nice binder. That way we can save all of them, read through them. Just a nice little collection for that as well. And then we also like to, remember all the other Missoulians who didn't make it back from Vietnam, unfortunately. So we do recognize their service and thank them for that as well. And then the last part of the exhibit is our reflection room. So in here we kind of have an allegory to Achilles and Greek wars and battles. It's really kind of a nice space to maybe chill out and take a break after reading and learning about Leon's story, and if it impacts you in a specific way, kind of taking a breather there for a second. We've got these cool photos that Leon took kind of etched in here as windows, so it kind of makes you feel like you're there a little bit. And then usually on this TV we've got all of his photographs cycling through as well, so you can reflect and maybe look at them a little bit more. But in this room we also talk about PTSD, shell shock, kind of how one became the other, and the development of recognizing post-traumatic stress as a legitimate illness, and how, it's not just related to war, but war oftentimes kind of brings it out in the worst possible way, and kind of the different symptoms and, what might be expected from someone who is experiencing PTSD. So, and then there's also just some other really cool pictures that Leon took, kind of hiding out in the corners as well. So that was kind of a quick tour of the exhibit. I hope you found it really interesting. I tried to do my best to cover everything. But if there's something I missed, or you want to come and take a closer look, we will be opening back up in just a few weeks, and we are really looking forward to seeing people back in our museum and checking out all of our cool artifacts, especially our local hero Leon and his story. So if you have any questions, let us know. If not, everybody keep yourself safe and healthy, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.